بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله على كثير فضله وعطائه وجزيل شكره ونعمائه، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد ابن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه، وبعد. سعادة المهندس أحمد بن حسن الذيب المحترم وكيل وزارة التجارة والصناعة، أصحاب السعادة، ضيوفنا الأعزاء، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته، وأسعد الله أوقاتكم بكل خير وسرور. حضورنا الكريم، يأتي دور مركز الابتكار الصناعي في خلق بيئة ابتكارية لدى القطاع الصناعي وتفعيل أنشطة البحث والتطوير، ويعمل المركز على تشكيل منظومة تكاملية تعمل على توسعة الاستدامة الصناعية وبناء الأبعاد الوطنية للنهوض بالاقتصاد المحلي من خلال برامجه التي يعمل على تنفيذها. وللمزيد حول برامج المركز وأهدافه يشرفني أن أدعو الدكتور عبدالله المحروقي، الرئيس التنفيذي لمركز الابتكار الصناعي، لإلقاء كلمته الافتتاحية.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سعادة المهندس أحمد بن حسن الذيب، وكيل وزارة التجارة والصناعة، راعي هذه الندوة. الأخوة الأفاضل، ضيوفنا من ممثلين الجهات الحكومية والشركات المعنية بقطاع الرخام، أهلا وسهلا بكم، وصباح جميل إن شاء الله، وصباح مفعم بالحيوية والنشاط. نتطلع إلى يوم مثمر إن شاء الله بالتعاون معكم في تطوير قطاع الرخام باستعمال أدوات الابتكار. سعادة المهندس، كما تتذكرون أنه التقينا في شهر 3 تقريبا لتدشين هذه الفعالية أو ما يسمى ببرنامج تطوير القطاع الرخامي من خلال أدوات الابتكار. استعرضنا آلية معينة نبني عليها في قطاع الرخام وكذلك قطاع الأسماك، ولله الحمد بعد أشهر قليلة هناك مخرجات يعني تبشر بالخير، مؤشرات إيجابية، هناك تعاون جيد من القطاع بالكامل. اليوم يشرفنا تقريبا ما يقارب من 36 شركة تشارك في هذا اليوم، 8 جهات أخرى من حكومية وأكاديمية واستثمارية تشارك في هذا اليوم. منذ انطلاق هذا البرنامج في شهر 3 إلى اليوم سعادتك هناك كثير من الفعاليات المتواصلة بينه وبين القطاع، وهناك تعاون جيد ما بين مركز الابتكار الصناعي والاستراتيجيك انوفيشن في بريطانيا. هناك تعاون جيد من نخبة من العلماء والاستشاريين والخبراء في مجال الابتكار وفي مجال الرخام، وبالتعاون وثيق مع جامعة السلطان قابوس في أبعاد مختلفة. إن شاء الله اليوم لنا جلسة وجلسات حوارية تتمركز حول 3 مقاطع. في البداية راح نستعرض مخرجات هذا البرنامج منذ انطلاقته إلى اليوم، وإن شاء الله الأخوة في سيستماتيك انوفيشن راح يستعرضون لنا هذه المخرجات، ومثل ستكون جلستين حواريتين نتطرق إليهما حول الفرص التي تم استكشافها من خلال هذا البرنامج. كما تتذكرون سعادتكم تم استعراض الآلية التي طورت من قبل المركز، وهذه الآلية تسمى المنهج، بحيث أن تمشي على خطة مسيسة وخطة واضحة، وتمشي على خطة معينة بحيث أن نحقق إنجازات معينة على مرور الوقت حتى نهاية هذه السنة. طبعا سعادة بدأنا بآلية اللي تسمى سكاوتينج، وهي عملية الاستكشاف، وكنا مركزين على 3 محاور رئيسية: كيفية تحسين الأداء في الشركات القائمة، وكيفية استكشاف فرص جديدة واعدة ما موجودة في السوق المحلي وفي السوق العماني بس موجودة في السوق العالمي، وكذلك التركيز على بعد جديد وهو كيفيه تحويل هذا القطاع ليتحول الى قطاع متميز، قطاع تنافسي يستطيع ان ينافس في السوق العالمي، وكذلك اختراق اسواق عالميه لم نكن مطلعين عليها. العمليه تتم بشكل متوازي حول 3 محاور. بدانا منذ البدايه وحتى بعد 3 أشهر تقريبا اجمالي الفرص الاستثماريه الواعده تجاوزت 90 فرصه. ومن ثم تم تقييم هذه الفرص بحيث انه نبني على ما هو افضل وما هو اسرع، بحيث انه يحقق مردود وطني، تحسين اقتصاد، خلق وظائف، خلق مؤسسات صغيره ومتوسطه جديده، وتحسين الاداء في الشركات القائمه حاليا. والحمد لله اليوم راح نستعرض 25 فرصه. هذه ال 25 فرصه راح ناخذ معطيات ومدخلات من المشاركين بحيث انها تتطور الى فرص استثماريه متكامله. راح نطور لها بزنس بلان، كومبريهنسيف بزنس بلان لكل فرصه من هذه الفرص ان شاء الله. موضوع التطبيق كان المفروض ياخذ حيز مع بدايه السنه الجديده، لكن الحمد لله المركز تمكن انه ياخذ خطوه استباقيه بالنسبه للفرص الواعده. فالان شغالين تقريبا نطبق من 8 فرص او اكثر في تحسين الاداء في داخل المصانع القائمه، سواء من ناحيه توفير الكهرباء او توفير المياه او تحسين نظام القطع، تحسين فعاليه الاداء في المصنع بشكل عام. فهناك فرص واعده بدات تطبق على ارض الواقع وبدات تؤتي ثمارها والحمد لله، ونستبشر خيرا من هذه الفرص التي بدانا نطبقها مع بعض المصانع المتعاونه معنا والحمد لله. طبعا الاخوه في سيستماتيك انوفيشن راح يستعرض علينا اجمالي الاحصائيات التي بنيت عليها الاليه وما هي المخرجات لحد الان. ان شاء الله هذا البرنامج راح نواصل فيه، لانه دربنا 3 من الاخوه العمانيين الشباب اصبحوا كفاءات ممتازه، تم تدريبه في المركز، تم تدريبهم تحت سيستماتيك انوفيشن، وتم تدريبهم في ماليزيا لمده معينه، فاصبحوا كفاءات ان شاء الله راح نبني عليهم كنواه، هم المخ المسيس لهذا القطاع ان شاء الله. موضوع المونيتورنج بيبتدي ان شاء الله من شهر 1 السنه القادمه، وراح نستمر فيه لمده 4 أو 5 سنوات، بحيث انه نتحقق فعلا انه جميع ما انجز في هذا البرنامج ينفذ على ارض الواقع ويحقق مردود اقتصادي ويحقق مردود خلق وظائف وخلق قيمه مضافه للمجتمع. تطرقنا لموضوع علمي سعادتك في الاجتماع الماضي، وفعلا الحمد لله مخرجات هذه الدراسه من حجم المعرفه ونقل التكنولوجيا وتطوير الكفاءات اصبحت كميه هائله جدا من المعلومات، واصبحت تسيس في منظومه الكترونيه يصير نشتغل في تطويرها. طبعا هذه الان يمكن تتطور الى مش فقط انه نتكلم عن ويكي او موسوعه، في حقيقه الامر الان يصير ننظر الى بعد جديد ما كنا نراه، وهو خلق ارضيه الكترونيه تمكن الحكومه من اداره هذا القطاع بفعاليه مطلقه. وهذا تصور يعني بيبنى على الذكاء الاصطناعي، وان شاء الله راح نستعرضه في الايام القادمه. موضوع الاستراتيجيه الوطنيه، وهي عباره عن اطار عمل استراتيجي بناء على مخرجات هذا القطاع بالكامل، التفاعل وفهمنا لما يحصل لقطاع الرخام في العالم كامل وماذا يحصل في عمان، سواء على الشركات الكبيره او شركات متوسطه او الشركات الصغيره. تم البناء على هذه المنظومه كامله ونستشف منها ما هو افضل توجه يمكن نبني عليه كحكومه وكقطاع خاص، بحيث فعلا هذا القطاع يتحول الى قطاع منافس خارجيا وليس تنافس داخلي، وهناك ابعاد استراتيجيه ممتازه جدا بدات تظهر في الافق. سعادتك بدانا في شهر 3 من هذه السنه، وان شاء الله مع نهايه هذه السنه نحن ملتزمين بالوصول الى جميع المسلمات التي كانت في الاتفاق ما بيننا وما بين التنفيذ، وهي الخروج كان المفروض نخرج ب 3 بزنس بلانز، نحن الان نصل الى 25 بزنس بلانز، فمعناته ان راح نتجاوز الافق اللي هو مطلوب منا كمركز على اشياء كثيره جدا تخرج من هذه الدراسه، وراح تظهر كلها ان شاء الله على منظومه متكامله تمكن خاصه الهيئه العامه للتعدين البناء عليها. نفس الاليه تبعناها في نظام الاسماك، وبصراحه تطبيق الابتكار الممنهج كاليه في تطوير القطاعات الاقتصاديه الواعده في عمان بدات يعني تثبت وجودها وجدواها في تطبيقها على ارض الواقع، وهناك تعاون وثيق الحمد لله بين الجهات المعنيه، ولن نطيل عليكم ان شاء الله كنا متطلعين لاستعراض المخرجات حتى يومنا هذا، وافتح المجال للاخوان لمواصله الاستعراض ان شاء الله، ولكم الشكر.
حضورنا الكريم، يعتبر قطاع الرخام من القطاعات الواعدة التي تسهم وبشكل كبير في نمو الاقتصاد الوطني، لذا عمل مركز الابتكار الصناعي على بناء خطة تكاملية تهدف إلى استغلال هذا القطاع وتطوير أبعاده الاستثمارية ومن خلال برنامج الابتكار الاستثمارية في قطاع الرخام، حيث عمل المركز بالتعاون مع شركة الابتكار الاستراتيجي بدراسة الوضع الراهن في مجال تصنيع الرخام بالسلطنة ومقارنته بتجارب وخبرات بعض الدول. ومن خلال ندوة اليوم يستعرض الفريق أبرز مخرجات البرنامج التي عمل عليها خلال المرحلة الماضية. وللمزيد حول هذه المخرجات نترككم مع عرض تقديمي تقدمه شركة الابتكار الاستراتيجي.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah, for the introductions. I'm just going to say a few words to build on Dr. Abdullah's comments and just sort of take you on the journey that we've been through in the last 6 months. So we started the program with this activity of scouting, and what that involved is a lot of desk research, visiting a lot of you guys in factories, a lot of expert interviews, and also global benchmarking. So we went to Italy, we looked at Spain, we looked at Turkey, and what other companies are doing throughout the world. And with all of that information, triangulated it together, worked with the IIC, and came out with a long list of possible opportunities. We started off with approximately 91, and together we'd worked to whittle those down to approximately 25. And today we'll be going into a bit of detail about some of those opportunities. In that process, we also collected a lot of insights which will be going into more of a national strategic framework, which will be less of the content of today. But just to say that really all the time people have taken to give us and the insights and information, it's been great, and it's really helped feed into the outcomes of today and continue to moving forward. I'm just going to say a little bit about the numbers of experts we interviewed. 31, visited 17 companies in Oman. We looked at over 100 research papers, and as I mentioned before, over 91 opportunities and 25 taken forward to today. So what I want to do is try and give you a bit of a landscape of how those opportunities fit into the bigger picture of the industry. So we started really looking at the process, and obviously the quarry, the factory, the workshop, and all the process in between, thinking about the process steps, the information systems. Then also considering the product to the customer on all the associated activities, packaging, logistics, marketing. Then the end product and markets, thinking about local, regional, international, and whether the products are the slabs and tiles cut to size or new products. And then also waste outputs. This is an area that was pretty much universally a concern to people in Oman, but also everywhere. And I think it was a real area of focus for us to try and find opportunities to do things with the waste, and ideally actually make money with the waste. And then lastly, looking at services feeding into the industry. So just plotting on top of that, you'll see a number of dots. Now the numbers are really just reference points, and I think you've all got handouts of the mind map. So that's really just to show you where these opportunities reside within that bigger industry picture. And the darker dots are associated with new businesses, and the orange dots are associated with operational improvement type opportunities. Okay, so now what I want to do, before we go into detail with each of the opportunities, is to just try and give a bit of context to the overall picture of of what the opportunities are. Now, for the purposes of today, because we're going to be talking about these opportunities in groups, we've clustered them into 6 different clusters, and within that there's 2 clusters for session 1 and session 2. So I'm just going to talk you through a top level picture of each of those clusters, just to give a sense before we go into detail. So first of all, looking at the first cluster around operational improvement, and the subcluster there is quality improvement fundamentals. So these really represent broad opportunities that are foundational to the overall long-term quality and operational excellence of the industry. And it's anticipated that the scope of these opportunities is something that will grow over time. The next cluster is optimising quarry and cutting. And these are much more focused opportunities that can actually address specific process steps. Now, a lot of these have actually come from specific challenges raised by the companies. And the idea really is, when we address these, is to make sure that all the lessons are shared then across the industry. The next cluster is around technology in the factory. Now, it was fairly clear that Oman actually has already adopted some fairly advanced technology, but we see there are potential opportunities to adopt technology in particular areas and maybe deliver further benefits, particularly in the areas of efficiency. And again, the lessons from any successful implementation of these technologies will be taken forth and then shared again around the industry. So the next group of clusters are around new businesses, and the first cluster of opportunities there is associated with new products and markets. And these are really opportunities to establish new businesses which sell new marble products, and also services for the services marketing Omani marble and assisting in entering new markets. Then the next cluster is about new companies to service the industry and establishing new businesses which could provide services such as logistics, packaging, consumables, suppliers, and machinery and maintenance services. Then the last cluster of opportunities we will discuss are around products from waste. And again, these are fairly specific opportunities where we are identifying particular markets and particular end uses for waste which are able to potentially make profit. And again, on a lot of these we've actually run the numbers and have partners in place. So these probably sit more in the kind of ready to go opportunity areas. Okay, so that's a very quick run through of what we're going to talk about today. Now, just a few additional comments around the nature of the opportunities. Now, first of all, the opportunities vary in scope. So some are much broader and they're longer term strategic, whereas others, as I said, are much more focused. The other is the actual stage of evaluation. Now, for some of the opportunities, as I say, they're ready to go and the evaluation has been taken quite a long way, whereas with others, there's actually opportunities to be shaping the nature of the opportunity, and I think that's what we're looking for input on that today. So that really leads me on to what the purpose of today is. We're going to be talking about each of these opportunities in groups, and would really welcome feedback. And perhaps the lens through which to look at this is, what is the opportunity? So the scope of what is proposed, actually, could this be broadened or perhaps it needs to be refined in some way? How will it be delivered? Now, there are various delivery vehicles for each of these opportunities. They may be new businesses, or it may be a new business unit within existing businesses. It may be that there's a requirement for some expert intervention in operational areas. and some specific domain expertise, or it may be another form of operational investment. And then perhaps last and most importantly, who will be involved? Who are the stakeholders that will help to take it forward? And that can be a mixture of companies with existing businesses, entrepreneurs, investors, and really it's the stakeholders in this room that can come together and actually make these opportunities work. So on that note, I will hand over to Paul, who will start to talk you through the first cluster of opportunities, which are around quality improvement fundamentals.
Thank you, Richard. Right, yeah, I'm Paul Frobisher, and I'm just going to talk you through this first cluster, which is to do with the quality improvement fundamentals. We're looking at three of them. So one is a quality lab. We're looking at operational excellence training program, and also IT systems for tracking and traceability. So the first one, quality labs. So in our scouting, we've been looking within the industry and also in Oman, but also globally. And what we've found is that there's clearly a need to establish quality and branding and reputation for Omani marble. And it's the same with any business, but we're looking at this from not just a business sector, but from a sector approach and perspective. So imagine that we're all floating in water and we're looking to raise the tide for everybody in Oman with this opportunity. So the idea is to give Omani marble a branding of excellence over the long term. And what we see at the moment, there's no mechanism or organisation to act as a focal point for that activity. So that's what this is about. It's creating effectively basically a lab, and it will create basically the underpinnings of definition of quality. So making sure that the specific aspects of quality, the measurable things, which are like the strength and the mechanical properties, are monitored and approved and accredited within various organisations, but also the more aesthetic requirements of quality, and understanding in the market and within the sector what is actually meant by quality and defining what things are. So, so the key activities will be to establish and incentivise the adoption of a consistent grading system based on physical properties and aesthetics. Give access to everybody to materials testing and quality controls in the factories, assisting. Some of the smaller factories may not have the lab equipment, but this is a way of giving access and support to those smaller companies. And building a catalogue of materials and marketing support. So the question that we have today really on this opportunity is just how far this organisation can go in terms of representing Oman on the international stage, in terms of improving the knowledge in the industry of Omani marble and the quality of the product. One of the things that we've been discussing is that, you know, that there is some really high quality stuff going on in Oman, and maybe the industry doesn't really know about it as much as it should when you talk globally to people. And so it's this idea of getting consistency and quality and getting that message out internationally. So it'll be really interesting to see what we're going to discuss when we talk about this. It's going to be something that's really going to strengthen the sector and make a big difference, I think, to the whole industry performance. But it's going to take time for that to work through the system. And it's going to require some funding, so that's got to come from somewhere, which is probably why it hasn't happened so far. But there needs to be a coordinated effort within the industry to take this forward. The second thing is operational training, operational excellence training. So we've visited several factories, and thank you for those, recognise some faces. Thanks for hosting us. We've taken a view, this is like a general view of the whole industry. This isn't specific to one particular company, so there's a spectrum of companies. But I think our assessment, if you like, or our advice is that the marble companies in Oman are kind of, they're good. They are run by common sense. But what we see is that there's not much evidence of what we would call an improvement culture with shop floor involvement. So somebody may recognise this photo. Okay, so this is a machine where somebody on the shop floor obviously has spotted a problem, and they've utilised their brain and their common sense to put some pieces of wood. So using resources which are available to them, they've made a common sense decision to sort out a problem. Now imagine if that was replicated across the whole business, so everybody is doing that and able to do that and empowered to do that. And that's what this is really all about. So improvement culture is getting everybody involved in making small improvements and innovation at the shop floor level. So this isn't academic, it's about real hands-on improvement. If everybody in a business does that and does it in a coordinated way, we know and everybody knows that basically that makes better businesses. So how do you do that? Well, you have to train people to do that, and you have to lead it, and you have to implement it. So one of the things you need to know is, what do you need to improve? If everyone is going to improve, you need to know two things: what to improve, and if you've tried to improve it, did it actually improve? And for that, you need to measure things. So what we've seen is that we don't see that much evidence of what we call statistical analysis or like statistical-based, data-based performance management. So what we want to do is see more of that in the future. And what that means at the moment is that companies are not capitalising on the heads as well as the hands of the staff and people in the business, which means it's lost opportunities for improving the businesses in terms of cost, in terms of quality and service delivery. So we're missing out a little bit there. And so what this is about, enabling the sector to move forward. So we're going to set up a programme which is going to be early in the new year to start off with, and we will basically teach basic continuous improvement techniques, so statistical analysis, understanding and a systems thinking. So just improving one part of a business is fine, but sometimes you have to think of the business and the system as a whole system. So we're going to be teaching about how to see a company as a system. It will be free to attend initially, and as then the programme develops, it'll have to be funded, but that's part of the discussion that will be going forwards. And it's not just about teaching, it's about support and mentoring and helping companies to actually, so we want people to come along to that workshop with real problems and areas to improve, so that we can actually make a real difference rather than just it being teaching. It's about doing. The strength here is that it should be, what we should be doing is a self-sustaining ethos or mindset within the whole business, that it isn't just about doing business. Part of doing business is improving your business and doing better every day and making things one step at a time better. The challenge is how do you do that when you have to deliver on today's performance? You have to supply to your customer that's desperate for something. So how do you do today's business and also think about tomorrow at the same time? And we know that's difficult, but what is needed is senior management commitment to make that happen. So hopefully that's the first step on that road today. And then the third is IT systems for tracking and monitoring. Now this graphic here is ERP, which is Enterprise Resource Planning. And we were thinking that this was maybe the thing that we should call it. That is, as we know that computers are used now for running companies, and they're everywhere. Now not every company in the marble industry in Oman is using ERP. Some are doing so and are doing a pretty good job, and of course we can always do better. But the foundational part of it that everybody really needs to be doing is actually monitoring and understanding what's happening at the shop floor level in terms of the product that's going through the process. And what this is about is putting in place the basic foundational aspects of ERP through a limited amount of IT application and going through the initial stages of what will be, or what could be, the implementation of a full ERP system. But how do you know, so what this is doing is it's helping you to see and track through how well you're doing as a business. So it's going back to what I said with the continuous improvement, is that this is part of the process of using data to inform your production planning, what you're going to tell your customers, and also your finances, and making sure that you're keeping track of how you're performing as a business in all areas. It has to be based on the shop floor, it has to be based on reality and what's actually happening on the ground. So what we want to talk about really today with you is just explore what the challenges are in this area, and where people feel they could start, or wherever they are. Most companies have some sort of tracking system. It's very difficult to run a marble business without something. But what's the next stage? Where are we going to push to with this, and how's it then going to build into these future systems? So implementing such a system, you are going to see some immediate tangible benefits. And you're going to be putting a basic infrastructure in which can develop over time. But the key challenge is normally customization to the size of the operation. It's not something that you can just buy off the shelf normally. It's something that needs to be adapted into your particular setting, and then also to have a modular system that you can build on over time. Okay, so that's the first three opportunities, and I'm going to hand back to Richard now for cluster 2.
Thank you, Paul. So yeah, this cluster around operation improvement is around some much more practical day-to-day areas for optimization. We're looking at technologies for strategizing cutting in quarries, block logistics in the quarry, treatment of fractured blocks, and optimization of gang saw speed. So in terms of technologies to strategize cutting in the quarries, unplanned cutting of stone deposits can actually lead to quite a lot of unnecessary waste when there's extraction of unnecessary and unfit fractured blocks, and of course this has a knock-on impact on the yield and the profitability. And being able to actually get some improved data on the geophysical features in the quarry can help increase that level of confidence in the quarrying strategies. Now, there are a number of geophysical methods and mapping software that can actually help with this. It's an area that has been being looked at and looked into for a number of years. but actually the technology is improving and getting much better. And so the focus of the opportunities is to strategize cutting in marble quarry using GPR technology and 3D modelling. So this is something that the IIC has already taken steps to investigate, and they're working in collaboration with National Rocks and experts from Sultanate of Oman University to try and implement this GPR technology. And those results will be developed, will be used to develop 3D models of fractures in the quarry, and after the successful validation of that, the idea will be to implement it more widely. So I think for this opportunity, it will be very interesting to get feedback and understanding of experience people might have had with this technology, what people's perception of it is, because one of the things that was clear to us from the scouting research was it has been around for a long time, but it seems to be tipping the balance now, and it seems to be being used actually in a way which can really have substantial benefits on the quarrying operation. So the key benefits, key strengths of this around this technology is actually it's relatively low investment, reduced the amount of waste, and no fundamental changes to quarry operations needed. The limitations are around the resolution, and time constraints may also be a limit for data processing. Okay, so the next area is around block logistics in the quarry, and this is really the fact that some companies are facing substantial challenges when it comes to simply the moving the block from the place where it's taken from the quarry and actually into the heavy goods vehicle for taking away to processing. So there can be issues with moving over distances. It can occupy lots of staff time. It can damage equipment, and so this results in wear and tear and increased downtime, and it can be a real problem. So this is an area of potential benefit to a lot of companies in terms of actually evaluating the methods for optimising that process of moving those marble blocks from the quarry floor to the heavy goods vehicle. So actually the current practice of logistics could be optimised by a number of strategies. These are just some highlights of the overarching strategies that can be used. Pre-action, intermediaries, set route plans, batching, new specialist equipment, alternative locations. So I think what we'd like to do in the groups here is really just to understand the degree to which this is a challenge and this is a problem, and the degree to which perhaps some companies have moved a long way towards solving it and perhaps others not so much. And again, there's a number of strengths associated with addressing this, and that is the reduced number of personnel for moving blocks, less downtime, increased yield. But there is potential that there may be need for investment in some machinery also to address this issue. Okay, so the next area is treatment of fractured blocks. So blocks often have internal defects that cannot be detected, and if the blocks break during the sawing, it can lead to damaging of the gang saw and downtime during processing. So blocks known to have fractures can be treated, but it's clear that it's not something that's widely done in Oman. Now, it's also fairly clear that the economics mean that it's not often viable. But actually, there's so many new treatment systems coming on the market at the moment that there is still, we see an opportunity for implementing block treatment systems and techniques within marble processing companies to increase yield and reduce breakage during cutting operations. So in terms of the overview of this opportunity, the plan really is to do initial feasibility study in partnership with the processing company to prove the concept. If successful, this will be used as a case study and a model for other processing companies, and the knowledge and techniques and technologies from that will be transferred. So again, the key strengths there are potentially significant reduction in waste and increase in production capacity. But of course there are still those challenges of, is it economically viable to actually do the treatments to these low value blocks? And the last one I'm going to talk about in this cluster is optimization of gang saw speed. So optimizing gang saw output basically involves balancing a whole number of factors, speed, balancing production speed, yield, and also cost, thinking of energy, tool wear. And increasing the production speed may lead to damaged blocks and decrease the yield. So essentially this is a problem of having to balance off a whole number of factors and optimise. Now the summary of the opportunity is actually conducting a design of experiments to study the speed of the gang saw with statistical analysis to provide predictive equation for the optimum speed to maximise yield. This is actually something that has been underway at the moment, and it's very much a work in progress. But I think a lot of interesting data has come back. At the moment it's inconclusive and there's further work to be done, but actually research does suggest that this structured approach, and again this is the idea really here, it follows the same theme about coming at these things with a structured approach and systematically, rather than necessarily relying upon the judgment of operators. And some research suggests that this structured approach can lead to optimization of 5 to 6% improved in yield for certain marble blocks. Okay, so I'm going to bring this cluster to a close now, and I will hand you over to Nick, who will talk about the last cluster.
Okay, I'll try. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Richard. Okay, so I'm going to take us through the third and final cluster for this first session, and the first opportunity here is around automation in factories. Now, most factories in Oman, as Richard mentioned earlier, actually have adopted modern Italian machinery, but we've seen that there are still some areas for improvements and additional automation. Some examples include movement of slabs, application of resins, and application of other chemicals. For each automation, a financial justification is needed, balancing payback in terms of productivity, as well as increased quality and savings in labour. Obviously, this will be on a case-by-case basis for each factory and each opportunity. Okay, so what we're really looking for here is factory owners and employees to highlight areas that they think might be beneficial to be automated in their specific factories. And what we'll then do is provide technology options for these and assist with justifying the investment for them. If it is viable, then the IOC will assist with investment support for the viable opportunities, and processes can then be implemented, monitored, and the successful ones can be replicated across the industry, across all factories where it might be relevant. So just quickly, a few examples of some of the automation that we found. There are various vision systems for photographing, dimensioning, finding defects in stone. There's obviously loading and unloading systems, which I'm sure many of you are actually familiar with. And there's also resin application systems, which claim to reduce the waste of resin by up to 30%, which is obviously quite significant. Really quickly, there are just some others in the application of a protective layer for packaging, as well as various processing machinery for things like making mosaics and new products. And also during installation, you can use things like digital templating to take digital measurements of installations and kitchen countertops and stairs rather than by hand. Moving on to the next one is about surface treatments to increase the value of stone. So as you know, marble is prone to staining and water absorption, as well as loss of aesthetic characteristics. And so there are actually a range of chemical treatments that can be used to improve the performance in a range of areas, such as the aesthetics, resistance to stains, resistance to slip, and others. And these happen in two ways. Firstly, treatments that impregnate the stone, or others that provide a protective layer over the top of the stone. And so this opportunity is for companies, workshops, factories to offer these treatments to customers at an additional cost to the customer, which potentially could allow companies to offer Omani stone to a wider range of applications due to the increased performance of the stones. So like I say, this can be for both marble companies and for smaller workshops, for international and national markets. And as well as this, partnerships can then be formed with the suppliers of the treatments, which could possibly allow companies to offer a warranty of performance for their product. For example, a 5-year warranty of performance on a kitchen countertop. Okay. The next opportunity is the reduction of water consumption. So most of the larger marble factories in Oman that we saw actually have large silo and filter press technologies, which we've seen to be state-of-the-art and quite common across the industry. However, these aren't particularly applicable for smaller workshops and perhaps even quarries where water consumption is lower and then space is more of a constraint. And so there are actually alternate technologies which can be used in these applications that would be better suited for quarries and for workshop scenarios. And so this opportunity is really about the installation of these alternate systems where applicable, as well as optimizing current systems that might be aging, updating them to new and efficient technologies. And the primary focus is to reduce costs of water through purchasing of water and improving the environmental credentials of companies in Oman. So just quickly, a couple examples are things like a lamella clarifier, which is much a smaller footprint than some of the silo technology, as well as these sludge dehydration bags, which can be used in quarries. They can be moved around a lot easier than fixed installations. One of the challenges here is that these systems might be better suited to smaller applications, but they might actually be less efficient than some of the larger systems. But that's something that will have to be dealt with. So opportunity 11 is looking at alternate packaging systems for tiles and slabs. Okay, so as you know, packaging of marble tiles is generally done in wooden crates, mainly on site in the companies. And this is common across the whole industry, and it's been very reliable. However, it's very wasteful as well, and large quantities of wood are used, and they're often not recycled at the end customer. It's also very labour intensive for the companies making the crates. Additionally to this, slabs can move in transport, and this can damage the materials as well as damaging, potentially harming people unloading it at the other end. And so what we've done here is we've found 2 examples of systems that have been looked at in other places that could be potential examples for something that could happen here in Oman. The first of which is these metal collapsible returnable structures for slabs. And basically the idea is that if you have a closed loop system, you can return the structures and they can be reused, and so you don't have to keep constructing new containers for slabs. It increases the loading and unloading speed, and they can be used for storage as well as for transportation. So obviously some of the downsides are that there's a greater investment for each one that you buy, but obviously you can make your money back over approximately uses. And this system's been tested, but it's not actually been commercially applied on a large scale. As you can see, it fit nicely into containers, onto lorries, as well as for storage and cranes in the factory. So the second example we've got here is there's a US importer and distributor that has sort of pioneered the system. And the idea is for tiles packaging, is using wooden pallets and cardboard boxes rather than a wooden crate. And so this has been claimed to reduce wood consumption by 70% and claimed to save $10 per crate or per pallet. And the main thing here is that this obviously needs validation in an Omani context. And so the last one in this cluster is about energy efficient systems in the factory. Obviously, energy consumption is a huge cost for most manufacturers, and I'm sure you're familiar with gang saws and bridge saws and polishing lines that use up lots of energy. And so this opportunity is all about finding ways of reducing energy, increasing efficiency, and reducing costs. And so basically, there'll be an initial survey of energy consumption in your company by the IIC and panelled agencies. And after this, there'll be post-assessment recommendations for new efficiency systems, improvements to processes, and new technologies that can help. And these recommendations will be short, medium, and long-term solutions. And so the IIC will help with subsidising these investments, as well as assisting in the implementation and the planning of these systems. And once the implementation has been proved in a company, it can then be replicated across other companies in Oman to help. And so it's estimated that the implementation of these recommendations will reduce energy consumption by 10 to 15%. And then additional to this, there's possibility of including renewable energy sources for further reductions of energy consumption. And one of the key challenges in here is actually measuring the energy for each machine or each company. It's quite it might require some investment there. But however, it is a low risk opportunity to reduce costs in the longer term. Okay, so that is an overview of the first three clusters of opportunities. What we're going to do now is split off into three groups and have a working session, and this is going to take approximately 1 hour. And so each table will focus on one of the clusters that we just discussed, and we'd like to invite you to discuss them with us and debate them and talk in a group and give us some feedback on them. Thank you.
إن شاء الله اليوم راح نكون في جلسة نقاشية. كل طاولتين راح يناقشوا فيهم كلستر يعني. فهذه الطاولة راح يتم مناقشة فيها سكوارينج كاتنج. هذه الطاولتين راح يتم النقاش فيهن التكنولوجي الفاكتوري. وفي الطاولتين الأخيرة هذيك يتم مناقشة فيهن فكذا يعني راح يكون التقسيم ان شاء الله. في اوراق كذا راح نساعد في بزنس كانفاسز لكل فرصه من هذه الفرص، وراح يكون في نقاش. بعد النقاش ان شاء الله راح مطلوب رايكم يكون في كل ورقه من هذه الاوراق ان شاء الله.
Okay, I think we'll start now if everyone can get a seat.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the fourth cluster, and this second session this afternoon, or the second session now, is mainly related to new businesses, and the first cluster within that is new products and markets, and within that these three opportunities that I'll talk through now and give a little bit more detail on. So the first one is looking at developing Omani designer products and brands. So the context is fairly simple around this. High-end design is able to add more value than any operation, and at the moment there seems to be very little in the way of high-end marble design industry in Oman, and there is a lot of activity in other countries, and in many respects it represents a niche in terms of volume, but the actual value of the items sold is very high. And in addition to that, it tends to be aligned with a positive view of the industry, in the sense that if very nice high-end designs are coming out of a country, it benefits the overall perception of that of the country and what it's capable of in terms of creating good designs, and it also brings with it the reputation of the material. So we're also looking here at artisan type designer products that can be made from waste as well. And so just to summarize the opportunity, it's high-end design, it's establishing design brands and reputation, and this takes time, promotion and talented individuals, but can have a positive impact on the whole industry's reputation. So a startup company has already been established to begin making some designs and to develop new innovative artisan products, and a number of prototype examples have been made, particularly focusing on products made from waste. And at the moment there's being approaches looked at in terms of being able to promote, market such products, and one idea is looking at competitions for designer products to be being made from waste. So the overall strength of this opportunity is that the designer knowledge can be built upon around an already established marble sector, and also it offers an opportunity to add a lot of value in some cases to waste materials and waste offcut materials. Some of the challenges, really, it's primarily around a route to market and actually finding customers for the products, and that is going to be a road of marketing and promotion, and also understanding what products are the right products for the market. Also, we're using waste, ensuring a consistent supply of material, because actually being able to get a material of consistency from waste is inherently going to be challenging. So this next opportunity, they're both really kind of related. This is focusing on homeware marble products for international and local retail. So just to give some examples, with homeware, really we're talking any home furniture, utensils, decorative objects for use in homes. It's been a growing trend over the last 5 or 10 years, and it's continuing the use of marble a lot more in these type of homeware products. And this differs from the previous opportunity in that it is looking at more higher volume production, so repeat runs of similar products. So the opportunity there is production of cut-to-size marble homeware products for regional and international markets. It's worth adding, we've seen a range of different models of how companies are doing this, and the routes through which they're selling these products. And typically it starts online, and then it grows, and then relationships that become established with retailers. The reason to list this example there is because in a moment we go to talk about e-commerce as well. So again, to give an overview of the opportunity is utilisation of cut-to-size workshops in Oman to service the marble homewares market. Now, in some cases, these products are 100% made of marble. In other cases, they actually have other components incorporated into them. So in those circumstances, it can make it more complex. And some supply chains, it is just a factory making the marble piece and supplying it to a components company. In other cases, the construction is being done by the actual company doing the fabricating. And I think there was a view that this, again, as I mentioned, would be a collaboration with and cooperation with an e-commerce partner to be able to actually market these products. So some of the strength of this is capitalising on a market which is not really served by Oman. It also builds upon industry diversification and actually producing, using the capabilities in the country to produce a wider range of different products. And also there's synergy with the designer marble products opportunity. They're really the same idea, but at different ends of the spectrum with regards to the volume and the sophistication of the product. But as I mentioned before, the key challenge here is really all about establishing the route to market and buyers. So in terms of that situation at the moment, we've spoken to a number of companies who are interested in principle, but actually when they what they want us to do is provide a long list of what can be provided by the companies, the materials they can access, and all of those things. So I think it would be good to hear if there's companies here that are interested in this opportunity, what capabilities they have. Okay, so this next opportunity is e-commerce for Omani marble. Now, it's obviously quite a big area, this. But just to give some context on some of the commentary and feedback we've had around e-commerce in the marble industry is that its use has been increasing, and internet is becoming an increasingly important sales channel. But it's still regarded as underutilized, and there are also quite a lot of criticisms of the e-commerce that is actually out there. So some of the common criticisms are around a lack of quality and reliable information, poor and inconsistent customer service, and really a lack of trust. And there are currently no online marketing agencies dedicated to the promotion and sale of Oman marble. So the opportunity here really is to have a professionally run and managed online sale and marketing agency dedicated to the promotion and sale of Omani marble. And the idea would be here to have a portfolio of different websites for different product categories. So a couple of the examples on the right-hand side are examples of other dimension stones who have been sold through dedicated e-commerce platforms. And one of the things when we were looking at this opportunity is we saw it was going to be key to find a partner that had know-how in both the stone industry, the dimension stone industry, but also a good understanding of e-commerce. And you know, that sort of that narrows down the list of potential partners. But there was a company that had spent the last 10 years building these sites, mainly for European companies, and knows Omani marble very well, and is really excited about the opportunity to be involved in something like this. So the idea really would be to have a startup company that would handle the promotion, sales leads, and associated customer service, providing and marketing on behalf of the producers. So the business model that the partner has used at the moment has been initially based on commission for sales, and then as those sales come in, the nature of the agreements they have with the companies changes. But the positive side of that is that actually involvement in this is a pretty low initial investment. It's pretty low risk, and the promotion of Oman marble benefits the whole industry. I think it's also worth saying that it would be important to link this activity with the activity of the Marble Quality Lab as well, because one of the things that, as I mentioned before, provision of accurate, clear information and credible information is very important. So having a degree of independent jurisdiction and governance over that would be a very sort of important tie-in. Okay, and the last opportunity in this cluster is new market entry and advisory services. Now, it's worth saying that this was previously connected under the same opportunity as the e-commerce, because they are quite difficult to distinguish, but we intentionally pulled this out because I think it was really to understand whether an advisory service in this area would be of value to the industry, and also specifically what is the nature of the barriers that are being addressed, or barriers that are being found with regards to entering new markets, and whether that is related to advisory services. So the context of this is that Oman marble is predominantly sold within GCC regions, but actually many producers are exporting it all around the world to a range of global markets, many of which are paying higher prices for the material. But equally, we've heard commentary that actually entering new markets is expensive, it's time consuming, and it's risky. And I think what we'd like to discuss in this opportunity is really understanding, getting under the skin of that risk, and understanding, is this about knowledge of the markets? Is this about networks? What is the barrier there, and is there an opportunity for us to plug that gap? Okay, so the summary of what this opportunity is an expert advisory service enabling accelerated assessment and access to new markets, helping establish market entry strategies. And so the idea is really to provide dedicated expertise and knowledge with connections and advice related to the specific markets provided to companies wishing to explicitly invest in targeting those new markets. So developing of market plans and market entry strategies, and also in terms of, again, trying to push towards the emphasis on higher standards with regards to the quality control and various components of the marble, preferential assistance being given to companies who adhere to those standards. So the key strengths really of this proposition is to reduce the risks of market entry, obviously the expanded market, and also promotion of Omani marble in new geographies, which ultimately will benefit the whole industry. But the key challenges are ensuring that the product positioning retains the high standards, and also meeting demands of some markets may require investment. It may require changing the way things are done, changing the way perhaps standard sizes of materials are made, or making other modifications which incur expenses and trade-offs according to the size of that market. Okay, so that concludes that cluster. I'll hand over now to my colleague Nick, who will talk about the next cluster of opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Okay, so this next cluster is all about services to the industry, whether it's to support factories in the industry or to provide services to customers and sort of adjacent to the industry. The first of which is the potential for a specialised transportation and logistics company for blocks and tiles, so either blocks from the quarry to the factory or from the factory to the customer. And now this opportunity is really early in terms of maturity, and so today we're looking for feedback on this opportunity and how it might be shaped and what might be useful and any problems with current systems that you might have. Obviously logistics is quite an important component and is a significant cost for you all, and so like I say, identifying how a tailored service could benefit companies is what we're looking for today. So the next opportunity in this cluster is about centralised manufacture of packaging, crates or materials. And as you know, most companies in Oman and the world use wooden crates, and these are pretty reliable, and most people make them in their own factory. Across different factories we've seen the different shapes, different sizes, different qualities of wood, and different qualities of box. And so this opportunity is the idea to centralise this manufacture to reduce costs and through economies of scale. Not only would it reduce costs through economies of scale, but it would reduce the complexity and overheads for marble companies that currently make them in-house. Centralisation would also help to share best practice. So we've seen a huge variation in the quality of boxes made, and centralisation of this would help to share best practice within the industry in packaging. I think the key challenge here is balancing between the added costs of logistics versus the savings that could potentially be made, and that's something we need to look into further. So the next opportunity is about the manufacture and supply of high volume consumables and chemicals used in marble factories. And so the idea is that marble factories in Oman use high volumes of consumables and chemicals that are just needed for processing a marble. And so most of the materials consumed are similar or even the same across different marble companies. Examples include chemicals, resins, mastics, as well as mesh backing materials and perhaps even health and safety equipment. The thing is here that companies tend to order these materials from individually and from different suppliers, often internationally, and so there's quite a lot of logistics involved in that itself. And so the idea here is that if a central organisation would source and supply Omani marble companies, it would take a lot of the complexity out for the companies, as well as potentially reducing costs. So as I just said, reduced complexity, faster service, and economies of scale. And this company has the potential in the future, if possible, to start perhaps actually manufacturing some of these supplies, which could bring down costs even further. And as I mentioned, some examples are chemical products such as resins and mastics, also reinforcement materials like fibre mesh, and health and safety supplies. So there are a few examples. One of the challenges here is that companies do actually use different brands and different products, and so trying to find some sort of uniformity across the industry might be one of the key challenges here. But one of the strengths of this opportunity is the reduced reliance on international imports of these materials. The next opportunity is a company to service, maintain and optimise marble machinery. Now most marble factories in Oman have internal maintenance teams that perform a lot of this work themselves. However, some of the companies, maybe some of the medium-sized or smaller companies, might not have the expertise, the skills, the employees to do a lot of this maintenance work. And the idea is also that international engineers and technicians and call-outs from suppliers is quite costly. And so the idea here is a specialist Omani company to provide maintenance, servicing and repairs to machinery in marble factories. And by having this central organisation, they'll have a bigger pool of knowledge that each company can draw from and share that knowledge across the industry. And the two core areas of the business are in maintenance, servicing, upgrading, as well as refurbishment of old machinery and resupply within the industry. And the second is about optimization of machinery, advice, as well as training services for new machines or for improvements. And this company will really provide fast, on-the-ground support at a lower cost than international experts, and with that integrated knowledge of how different machines might interact. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges, is getting that expertise and knowledge into this company, and that's something that still needs to be determined. And so the next opportunity here is the idea of a professional maintenance repair service for marble installations. So for domestic and commercial sized projects. And so as you know, natural stones are prone to staining, prone to cracking, chipping, and other damage, and dirt build-up. And so there's, as you know, there's also quite a big network of workshops across Oman that, for example, provide the domestic market. However, the maintenance, repair, and surface treatment sector seems to be underutilised in Oman, and so that's where this specialist company would come in, whether it's either just a cleaning service or fixing a crack in an installation, or adding treatments to installations. And so you can kind of categorise the activities into two areas. The first is to restore installations back to their original state. For example, if there's a crack, restoring it back to what it would look like new. And then the second is additional services on top of that, so improving things, adding performance, adding characteristics. And the idea here is that the existing network of Omani workshops would be the ones to carry out this service. They're local, they're based all around the country, and they could then provide a consistent service across the domestic market. And one idea is using a single brand to help with promotion and marketing of these activities, just to increase the demand in the market. And like I say, both residential and commercial installations are potential customers here. So that's that one. Okay, and so now for the next cluster with Paul.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, last but hopefully not least. Okay, so this one is about waste. So this is the kind of stuff you can see from space. I think if you looked at Google Earth, you could probably see a lot of the marble waste as the white bits in Oman. And we've got a few ideas here based on scouting and some ideas we've been having about what we can do with these kind of mountains of white powder. So one of them would be to basically make a cementatious premix. And this is effectively making, if you look up here, so like the processing operations in marble factories, effectively you're making wet sludge cakes or like clay, and maybe 300 kilograms per hour per gang saw, and 100 kilos per hour per polishing line. So you're actually producing a significant amount of what we might call waste, but we always like to think waste is not just waste, it's an opportunity. So we want to make as much money out of this resource as we can. And at the moment it's even worse than that, because it's actually a cost to most companies. It's costing you money to dispose of this. So if we can just even have a fairly limited amount of profit from these opportunities, it's going to make a big net impact. But we want to actually make it high value. What if we could make more money out of the waste than you are out of the tiles? So this is dry ready-mix mortars, adhesives and waterproof mixes. And the guys have been doing a lot talking to actual companies that are involved in this area. So this is quite a well thought through, these are all quite developed opportunities that have got some partner organisations in the background being considered. So as a bit of background, the Italian consortium developed a method to filter marble sludge and waste and use as a filler, apparently the waste filler accounts for 20 to 60% of product volume. And mixing that with Portland cement and additives to create a range of products, so plasters, underlayers, finishers, fine plasters and so on, you know, the kind of stuff. And one of the really good things that we've found is that actually you can have quite a highly flexible production where you can change over between the different products quite quickly, and that's quite important in this, in that the availability of different grades of the waste is probably something that changes over time, and also the demand for different products will change over time. So having flexible, fairly low to medium volume manufacturing is important. And this, there are examples in Palestine and Algeria of this actually being put into practice commercially. So strengths of this idea are limited investment. It's fairly low scale. It's proven, and the initial studies that we've done on this show that it should be quite financially attractive investment for Oman. And the key challenge is that, although having said that, it's still quite a low value product, so it limits its application and potential revenue and profit. So so this seems like quite a good opportunity. Now, it's whether one of the challenges, I guess, here is to decide if people want to get involved in this, but also who. As Richard was saying earlier, it's a real who question, and then what does that do to the market for this, the price, if you like, for the waste? So how's that going to change the economics of the industry? Because we can't just assume that the input is free. It has to have a value, so it makes it useful, or it puts an incentive to everybody to supply this, almost like not free of charge, but obviously in relation to its true value. So what's the true value of what we currently consider something which is waste? It's always one of the challenges with this type of product and opportunity. So this is very similar, but this is using waste in a different way, using it for blocks and cladding tiles. So this is probably one step up in terms of the value add. So this is a more attractive, maybe a more financially attractive opportunity. But basically it's again taking the sludge or the clay, and this is making insulated construction materials in an aerated concrete kind of process. And we already know that there's a significant demand for aerated concrete because it's insulative. You have a different insulation requirement than we do in the UK. It's just the temperature's going in a different direction. So actually using marble waste powder as an additive filler within the process of making these is actually quite an attractive proposition. So the proposition summary is that it's a manufacture of low thermal conductivity construction materials such as cement boards or blocks, using marble waste powder as a filler. So here we go, here's the mountains, and we're turning the mountains into, into blocks and boards. And again, we have found examples, so this isn't just dreaming up an idea, this is real, there's real stuff behind this. So we have contacts with in Italy and Algeria, where we can discuss these opportunities and maybe some tech transfer or learning from those as case studies, depending on how we feel about where we want to go with this. So the strength mainly is that it's a pretty simple, proven technology for the manufacturing, relatively low investment, and potential for a nice diverse product range, which means that it can be tailored towards whatever the market is starting to develop. So you don't have to decide what you're going to make and then set up an expensive plant to make it. So you can invest in something that's pretty flexible and allow it to grow, and then probably expand it bit by bit as the market grows. But the initial research we've done, again, from the case study, shows that it's a profitable business opportunity. The risk, I guess, is that, or one of the challenges is that the products really only consist of 25 to 40% of the waste material, and therefore you have to, effectively, it's not, the main purpose of the business is not to utilise the waste is just an ingredient in something that you're doing as the main purpose of your business. So there's a lot of cost in terms of other things. And I guess one thing that's probably not mentioned there is, okay, so if this really took off, is there enough waste? Nice problem to have, but also, as I said earlier, what is the market, what's the real market value for something that is currently considered to be just a cost and of no real value? And that's something that we can have discussions about. And no one will know until we've done it, really, until we look at other, or unless we look at other case studies. Okay, so this one is artificial tiles or slabs. So this is another one up the level of opportunity in terms of its profitability. So this is almost like making a competitor to marble from marble, in a sense. So this is effectively the same background, but the opportunity is that the manufacture of artificial marble tiles and slabs composed of approximately 80 to 90% of the sludge waste powder material by leveraging recently developed stone reprocessing technology. So this is a Canadian company, and they are the first in the world, we believe, to do this. I'm right in saying that, aren't I? This is like a new thing. It's not brand new in that it's out of the lab. This is there's a commercial example of this, and they're doing very well. So this is like bringing something that's like just got out into the world. It's pretty new. It looks like it's going to be really successful, and actually we've spotted it, and it is something that potentially could be where Oman could have a real leadership in the Middle East region. The interesting, really interesting, that it's actually mostly the sludge. It's mostly the waste. And you're making an actual product from that. And there's all sorts of ways of making, example, artificial marbling effects, for instance. It's a patented process, and the whole point of the patent is that it's about making the best use of gang saw waste. Apparently the results are that the physical performance is comparable or even better than engineered stones. And obviously it's a free and available bulk raw material. This one, we really like this one. We think there's a lot of mileage in it, and the numbers that we've run on it are very good. So there's a potential significant amount of profit there, obviously utilising the waste. It's potentially a very large market, and it's got some good environmental credentials associated with it as well, so that makes it a good marketing point. The challenge, so there's always a downside. It's a significant. This is one with a significant investment. The equipment has been identified, sized, and we're using the Canadian example. So we've been in good contact with them and been talking to them about their financial modelling and how their business is planned. So we're looking effectively at transferring that same model into Oman from Canada. So together with a significant amount of investment, you also have a risk that it's currently a product that isn't available on the market. It's similar to other reconstituted stone type products, but it actually isn't something that's currently on the market. But you don't get to be the first into the market and exploit that opportunity and the benefits of that without having the penalty of being the first to the market. It's a classic problem. So, and of course, there is expertise. The expertise will be available to Oman, but it's a new manufacturing process. Whether the other two are much more basic, established, lower scale and lower investment. So that's those ones. And, yeah. So finally. And I suppose, in a sense, what I've just said is that we're talking about some individual processes. Richard was talking about small businesses using waste or offcuts for high-value, artisanal type products. So the question is, how do you know where that waste is and how much of it, and how do we manage the market for waste? And this is what this opportunity is all about. It's basically a waste collection, brokerage and sale organisation. So it will basically say to the companies, right, we're going to come and take your waste away and offer that as a service. Now, where it gets its money from will be an interesting one, because it might be that it's a service that's provided to the people that are making the money from the waste. So like the block manufacturer, for instance, would maybe pay this company to go and collect and find out who's got the waste, when they want it collected, and actually create a logistics system to do that. But basically it's about organising who's got the waste, where is it, where does it need to be, and who needs to make the money out of it. So it's like an enabling service which is going to enable that to happen. And it includes even the partially processed waste, so aggregates. It comes to that as well. So it's not just about the higher value, the pasty powder wastes, but it's everything. So a challenge is that we're that in the industry is actually just connecting up all the waste streams, and this is what this is about. So it's establishing a waste brokerage service which acts as an intermediary between waste materials from quarries and workshops and end markets which value them. And that's going to be something which is going to evolve over time if some of these other opportunities are taken up. So the initial focus will be on known markets, so aggregates and for construction and landscaping materials. So that's like a known outlet for these materials. And then there's these other opportunities. So there's the filler in the construction industry, offcuts for value-added products. So that's the design of products we talked about. Exploration of potential supply of calcium carbonate into a wide range of other sub-markets. So some quite high-value ones, pharmaceutical even. But here we've just mentioned animal feed, plastics and paper. All of these things are known technologies that can be adopted and brought into Oman quite low risk. But you don't get to do that without really having control of the waste and understanding of the waste streams. You have to manage it. The key strength on this is that it's I don't know what happened there. The key strength on this it could be the cable. Oh well, doesn't matter. I think you've seen them all anyway. I just need to. So that is actually the last one. Yeah. So we're now going to work on to the go on to the second. Well, in fact, I'll just summarise it. So the waste stream utilisation or valorisation, effectively. So we've got 3 opportunities which are based on mainly powder, and then the final opportunity, which is about the waste stream management and understanding like the offcuts and how the whole thing's going to work as a solution, as a service into the industry. So we've had the final 3 clusters, and we're going to go into our discussions now. So we don't have to be in the same tables as we were before. So I guess I'm going to be taking the one on the right, which is the waste stuff. Yeah. New companies and services industry. Yeah. And new products. So I'll be on this one, and Nick, you're on the new companies, and Richard's on the back one there. So yeah, so please don't feel as though you're stuck on one table. The important thing is that we get your contribution and understand what you're interested in today, and sometimes they may not be on the same table. So that might be introduce a little bit of complexity, but the important thing is that we get your feedback on the right things. Okay, so has anybody got any questions? Is anybody unclear on anything? Are we ready to go? Okay, thank you. We'll get the PowerPoint working.
شكرا على الحضور وشكرا على كل الدعم اللي قدمتوه لمركز الابتكار الصناعي في هذه الورشة. إن شاء الله كانت الورشة طيبة وراح تؤدي بإذن الله ثمارها. راح يكون بيننا تواصل في المستقبل. نشكر جميع اللي حضروا، نشكر أيضا جميع أصحاب المصانع والورش اللي قدموا لنا الدعم.